I mean, there's further cuts that they want to make.
As I said, they've underestimated, in my opinion, underestimated their revenues. And this House has passed several additional tax cuts. But after we passed them, instead of sending them over to the Senate, as would normally happen, they laid them on the table. So that when all this money ends up at the end of the budget cycle and they increase the revenue estimates to a more realistic number, then they'll have all this extra money not to plug back into the budget, but to cut the taxes that they have laying on the table. And so.
Can I just make a quick comment? I don't think anything has highlighted the randomness of the non sequitur sort of nature of this budget more than the comment that you just made, which is it's $500 million less, and the comment that the gentleman from Newington made, which is that your tax rate, if this went through, would go up. Did you say 14%? A $500 million budget cut, and they're going to present to the people of New Hampshire, look at what we've done, and yet our taxes are going to go up. If that's because of the random nature, the slash and burn nature of what's been done, it doesn't make any sense.
Do we have Nancy, Robert, and Marcia in that order? Nancy?
Well, just to talk, kind of what Nancy Claver was talking about, I too have a son with Down syndrome, and we proudly went to Concord, and Nathaniel was actually made it on WMUR and in the Portsmouth Herald, holding his bright pink sign that said, "I care, I matter, I vote." And I do think the disability community has come together, thanks to Bob James from One Sky and a number of other board members here. But I really feel like we need to do more. And even though there was, I don't know, 2,000 to 5,000 of us, I heard from various representatives in the House that there were really a lot of disparaging remarks about us out there. And it wasn't just people with disabilities, and it wasn't just the unions, and it wasn't just teachers and firefighters and police officers and musicians and artists, it was everybody. So I guess my question is, if we can't make an impact by having that kind of turnout and just being laughed at by the majority in the House, and then Jackie, you said Nancy taking her son Michael to meet the speaker might not have an impact. My question is, what would? And I would certainly, I mean, I got 36 people on a school bus to go to Concord. I would be more than happy to organize a group of us going, including, you, shellfish person, and somebody from, I'm sorry. I honor what you do. A teacher, a firefighter, but, would it help if we got different constituencies and maybe 50 of us to actually go to the State House and stay there until people addressed all of us?
Nancy, I would tell you that the only way you can make any impact with the senators is try to talk with them on a one-on-one basis, because they are grouped together just like the House. They were elected to these positions and they made a promise that they're going to cut taxes. All I hear out there from Republicans is, "Laura, I apologize, that is not the person I voted for." But the impact, the only impact you would have would be if you could make appointments to sit down with them, each one of them, on a one-on-one basis. Because as a group, they do not listen.
But even if, I've put in a couple of calls to Nancy Stiles and she hasn't called me back. But what about the But what about the senators that are not, because I know at a federal level, I can't call a congressman from Wisconsin. Well, I can, but I've tried, and they usually don't listen to me. But is that the same here?
In the state of New Hampshire, every one of those senators represent you. Even though they are in a Senate district, they still represent you. They might not think they do, but they do. And you need to make that a point to let them know that you have brothers and sisters and cousins and aunts and uncles in their district
that you will call that they won't get elected next time.
And bring your Republican independent friends with you.
The only thing, you know, it's been rolling around my head for a long time is we're playing sandbox politics. This is like kids, you know, he said, she said, they called me, no, I called him, no, don't look at me. This is to the point of absurdity. And I think that we not only have to call to meet our senators one-on-one, but I think we have to call to say, let's bring civility back, let's talk to each other, stop calling each other. Isn't that almost absurd that we would be calling each other names, and yet we heard them. And, you know, call me what you want. This is like it's the lowest form. It's when you take your children and say, no, don't do that. So I think we have to make those points as well. And I still think showing up and collaring people in the hallways, find out when they're going to be there. Usually it's the clerks who pretty much know what's going on. And we certainly have people up there who pretty much know when people are going to be around. I think that's a good thing, and I think different constituencies, because they're not targeting unions, disabled, you know, old people, sick people, mentally ill people. It's a broad spectrum we're talking about. We're not only talking about that, we're talking about the middle class, the business owners who are not going to have business. All of that. You know, if Portsmouth isn't safe, if the streets aren't safe to walk, nobody's going to come down and go out to eat at night.
I hope that nobody leaves here thinking that your voice and your actions don't matter. That would be the worst possible outcome of having a public forum about what's going on in your state government. I know that for many it can feel somewhat discouraging that we're not getting rapid results. And I can tell you, I think I can fairly speak for all of us up here, that we're feeling a little discouraged ourselves. However, even with only 100 Democrats and about 14 or 15 of the self-described Main Street Republicans, the old, somebody mentioned Walter Peterson, the Walter Peterson Republicans, we have probably had more successes than we would have had any right to expect with only fewer than 120 votes to deal with. Even if we don't have a change, a drastic change, a drastic difference in the budget that comes out in June versus the one that the House just passed, it's critically important that all of you are here, that you are educated about what's in that budget. It's critically important that you were on, I know many of you particularly were in Concord at the rally and are making your voices heard, because if you weren't, all of this would be going on. There'd be no possibility that things were going to get better, and they never would get better in the future. So take what information you have and use it to make a difference. And if it takes a year and a half, or 2 years, or 2.5 years, or 3 years to have that change come about, it is worth having the change. So when you leave here, you need to talk to your friends, your neighbors. You need to talk to people that you don't normally talk to. I wouldn't necessarily say that those of you that are associated with the developmental disabilities community should be talking just to other people in that community. You need to talk to people who are not, who are independents, who are maybe don't think a lot about what their government does or doesn't provide to them. Start to have those conversations with those people, because I did hear somebody say one thing that we are experiencing, I think most of us, is that we are now hearing from independents and from Republicans that this is not the legislature that they thought that they were electing. The only reason they know that is because so many of you were at the State House and the press started covering what's going on. And so we need you to continue to do that. And I hope when you leave here and every day